This is Total.
Hey, what the hell are we recording?
Yeah, and you're screwing up the intro.
What about my part? It's supposed to be our podcast, right?
Come on, man. I'm trying to be professional about this.
You know damn well there ain't nothing professional about what we're doing here. Welcome to Totally Unprofessional. It's Manuel and Justin, his two best friends shooting the breeze about nothing and about everything. We're separated by 10 years, 2 points of view on every subject from 2 different generations. Listen as we talk sports, events, and anything else that might come up. There's nothing professional about what we're doing here, hence the name, Totally Unprofessional.
All right, we're back. It is the Monday edition of Totally Unprofessional. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Busy weekend for the UFC. UFC 198 was this weekend.
That's right. I didn't even catch any of that. Did you watch it?
I watched the main event and also, what was the other fight that I watched? I watched Fabricio Verdum and Stipe Miocic, and I also watched, what was the other one? Vitor Belfort.
Okay.
He lost.
Now I heard Alves got worked.
Who?
Was it Thiago Alves that got worked?
Oh, Alves?
Alves, yeah.
I'm not sure. I didn't see the full results of the whole
I
card.
saw something on Facebook that said he got worked, so I was curious to see.
Vitor got worked.
Did he?
He got taken to the ground and he got his ass handed to him. We have a new heavyweight champion in Stipe Miocic. Got Verdum going backwards. Verdum was chasing him and he caught him with a short right hook.
Nice.
Dead money and flatlined him. Wasn't even like, I gotta jump on it. Like, he flatlined him out cold with a short right hook.
Speaking of short right hooks.
Uh-oh.
You know where we're going with this, right?
I'm listening.
The baseball game.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And
Joey Bats.
And he did not even lay him out. Rocked him a little bit.
He just took it.
But they're calling it the best right hand in baseball history. It was awesome. Some people compared it to Nolan Ryan's fight. I said, no way. Nolan Ryan was a combo swinger. And he hit a couple of times, but man, that was crazy to see that highlight. I didn't see it live, but I saw it pop back up.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that was a baseball game. That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Hey, that just means he's gonna flip that bat a little bit harder next time.
Oh, yes, he will.
Don't think that he won't either. So we've talked about having guests here before. We've had my brother on.
Yeah.
We have some plans for, as we've said, our tattoo guy will be on in the future if we can find his time slot for his availability. We have some hopefully a bigger name.
Oh, awesome! If he comes,
if we can make it happen, he'll be in town for a little while. So don't want to get too much into it if it doesn't happen. But we're hoping to get a big name in here. But today, as promised, we'd have some themes and some different things. And today we're going with a wrestling theme. WWE, as it is now known. WWF, if you're in Manuel's era. We got my good friend who I've known for a long time, and generally the one person that after pay-per-views or specials or whatever, we're on the phone Snapchatting, texting about what we think about what happened, and essentially armchair booking our way through it. So this is Giovanni Pena, also known as Gio.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
So just a little background. I've known Gio since junior high. I believe I was a 7th grader. You're an 8th grader.
Yeah, probably, man. I would say that long.
Right around there with Anthony and Victor and those guys.
And you're a grade under us, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I don't know, man. You're there.
And then when I got to high school, when you guys were a sophomore and I was a freshman, that's when we actually kind of like started talking about different interests, about music and about stuff we watched on TV.
When we had Spanish.
Yeah, the white kid had Spanish.
We had Spanish with a German teacher.
Yes, figure that one out, huh?
Yeah.
well, that goes all the way back to me. We had the French gal teaching German. We had the German guy teaching Spanish, and the Spanish guy teaching French.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
sounds like you're telling a bar joke.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, me and Gio became good friends then, and we found out, hey, back then it was a little bit different. Wrestling wasn't mainstream like it is now. It's a lot stronger mainstream than people think nowadays. It's a constant thing in Rolling Stone. ESPN has segments with them every Tuesday. It's a real ideal thing nowadays. Although their ratings and their viewership demographic has changed, it's much more mainstream now. But back then, if you were the type that went ahead and watched wrestling or had the magazines and stuff like that, you're a little bit of an outcast a little bit. It was a little one of those things where it's like, aren't you a little old for that stuff? Which now is even more magnified now as a grown ass man. But yeah, that's how me and Gio go way back. Now, Mayo, we talked about this a little bit on Friday we were talking about you possibly brushing up on the current situation in the state of wrestling, but then you decided no, that's not what you want to do because you come from a different generation and a different era.
Not even a different generation, but my wrestling. Okay, so I go back to wrestling.
Okay, so before you go, what was the first thing you remember of wrestling?
The first thing I remember of wrestling, man. Okay, if we're going actual memories, we're gonna go back to Roddy Piper and Mr. T. I believe it was WrestleMania 2.
Yep.
Where they had an actual boxing match. Go figure. The main event for that WrestleMania was a boxing match. I remember that vaguely, but the great thing about nowadays is you got DVDs, you got YouTube,
the network.
You got the well, I don't, and I'm not gonna.
Well, you don't have the network.
I'm not gonna pay for that.
But the network's there.
Yeah, it's there, so you can research the history of the WWE, whatever you want to freaking call it.
Like I said, hey, don't be disrespecting the World Wildlife Foundation.
So
that
you can
gets pissed.
you can pull up any history and watch any of those, and kind of educate yourself on it. But those are some of the earliest ones I remember. I remember guys like George the Animal Steel and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. We talked about Roddy Piper. A lot of people didn't know Mr. T even wrestled briefly a few years. Of course, if you're going to do that, you go back to the Hulk Hogan heydays. Back to when the WWE or WWF was 2 belts. You had a heavyweight champion, and you had an intercontinental champion, and you had 1 tag team champion, and that was it.
Yeah,
there weren't all these phony belts. The next belt to be introduced was the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase's money belt.
The $1
For
million
those of you
belt.
who remember that,
Yep,
the $1 million belt.
belt.
So, it goes back to when it was a little simpler. I watched it probably until sometime in high school, which would have been the mid-'90s. And then I stopped. I don't know why I stopped. Probably because pay-per-views were not... I mean, I wasn't paying the bill then. So trying to convince mom or dad, hey, I want to watch this for $30 or whatever it was back then. And $30 would be cheap, right?
Right.
So...
That wasn't in high definition for our younger viewers. There was no such thing.
There was no HD back then. So we had. I stopped watching it then, and then we had my wife and I have a godson whose dad got me back into it about 98, I want to say, maybe 99. I picked it up midstream where D-Generation X was probably the bigger thing. Steve Austin was one of the main marquee characters. Of course, I think if I remember right, when I started watching it, he was kind of like doing cameos in and out. He was kind of on a hiatus, but he would make like special showings. The Rock was just starting to get big. Chris Jericho had just come out. I mean, just come out
to WWE.
Yeah, so that, and then I watched it for probably like 5 years, and like all series to me. Storylines are good, but they can get excessive, and I just felt like the storylines for that, and I hope to burst anybody's bubble, but this is fake, so it's written, it's staged, it's screened,
don't be
whatever.
disrespectful. Predetermined,
whatever. But their storylines were real good for a while. They kept you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
They kept you guessing. But when Vince McMahon started to get that monopoly on everybody, it started to get a little out of hand. In my opinion, the initial acquisitions of the WCW and ECW and the ECW, those were actually pretty good written into the script, because I remember Benoit and his crew coming in and being given an opportunity that night to work their way into the WWE if they could beat a series of people. And it was funny because Benoit had Triple H tapping out, and I was like, you get lost, you forget that it's staged, because you really get into it.
They suspend that belief for a little while.
They do, and they did a real good job of that. And then it got to the point where it didn't do that for me anymore, so I just stopped watching it. Especially to me when Austin stopped wrestling on a regular basis, because to me that guy, I know he's a fictional character, I know that it's predetermined, but that guy just kicked ass. I mean, it was awesome to watch that guy. When I heard that glass break, I knew he was coming out. I was on my feet yelling, kick someone's ass, drink some beer. It's just like, you're screaming at that screen, and you're like, man, that's my boy, that's my boy. Right. Well, when he stopped, it was kind of like, I don't know. For those of you that don't know, I fought in the Tough Man back in like 2004 4 or 3. My entrance music was the Degeneration X entrance music. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, so a little bit of history for you there. But no, I was a real big fan for a while, and it just like I said,
It run
the
its
story.
course.
Yeah, and then I would tell you, like most series, I've watched some TV series where they just run their course, and I've never gotten back into it. I've tried. My son watches it off and on. He even made me buy him the WWF game after being at Justin's one night and playing it. So there's it's definitely talent to do that profession. No lack of respect for those guys. I one of the matches I'm sure still rings in any true wrestling guy's heart is that tables and ladders match between the Dudleys and
Edge and Christian and the Hardys.
And the Hardys. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't care how staged or predetermined. If you're falling 40 feet onto a table, it's gonna hurt,
Yep.
and you're gonna break some bones, and you're gonna be laid up for a while.
You'll be hurting.
Yeah, you're definitely you're a different cat if you can do that kind of stuff. You
Right.
know, jumping on top of another man from the top buckle. You can't land and be safe.
Yeah.
You can't
There's
land
no
and avoid
softness
it.
in
There's
that.
no soft landing there. So those guys, immense amount of respect for them. They're some of the greatest athletes on this planet, second to none. Lesnar's proved it.
Yeah.
We know The Rock was a linebacker at Miami.
Yeah, with Warren Sapp.
With Warren Sapp. So those guys are definitely good athletes. But
Gio, what about you? When was the first time you remember seeing wrestling or hearing about it?
The first time I ever encountered wrestling was probably not even wrestling related. I think I was probably turning, I want to say 4 or 5, but somebody purchased me a really big plastic Hulk Hogan, and
Nice.
I remember it was just like, man, this is a superhero, So
Right.
it looked like a superhero, and I found out it was Hulk Hogan after a while, and probably about a year or two later. The first match that I ever watched was Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, WrestleMania
yeah.
6
the Mega Powers.
in
Yeah.
Toronto.
Yeah, and I
No,
remember.
see, the Mega Powers was actually Hulk Hogan and Macho Man.
that's right. That's right. That tag
Yeah.
team. Yeah, no, this one was the Ultimate Challenge.
Yes, it
That's
was
what
the
it was.
Intercontinental
Yeah.
Champion, the Ultimate Warrior versus the
Yeah.
Heavyweight Champion
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan in
I
Toronto.
remember that.
Yeah, and I just remember I was going for Hulk Hogan because I had the doll, and I was like, Hulk Hogan. And I had my cousin, he was just like, nah, Ultimate Warrior. And I really had never heard of the Ultimate Warrior, but I saw his paint, and I saw the tassels and everything, and by the end of the match, I was like, Ultimate Warrior.
You were sold.
Oh yeah, man, definitely. And I think it's just they're bigger than life, man. When you're a kid, now it's harder to get into that world in
Right.
that mind state. But when you're a kid, you really look at them like they're larger than life, they're
for
superheroes.
sure.
And so that, especially when you see a kid, a guy with tassels or Hulk Hogan who had the whole pageantry around him, it was just and Macho Man. I think that's another thing. We all saw Macho Man in the Slim Jim commercials.
Yep.
And that's where I remember. That's where WWE and WWF at that time really nailed it. They had their characters out and about. I think in the Rocky movies, you had Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Thunderlips.
Thunderlips. Yeah, and then even Mr. T, which he was doing his wrestling thing.
Yep.
Let's be honest here. We didn't watch Randy Macho Man to watch Macho Man, did we?
That, for those of you wondering, I guess we found out whose Manuel's childhood crush was. It was Miss Elizabeth.
Ooh yeah.
For me, I remember watching on Saturday mornings. It was real early. I was 4.
11 a.m. Channel 53.
See, you knew. It was Saturday mornings. I remember seeing the Rockers, which was Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. I remember seeing the Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret Hart, and of course Hulk Hogan. The Undertaker, I don't really remember seeing him right away, but I knew he was around there. And then obviously the Ultimate Warrior was another big name around that time. But I remember being 5, and that was my birthday present. We went to Sound Arena.
Nice.
Jake because Jake was only 3, he got dropped off at a babysitter, and we went to the show. Sat way up at the top. I can't tell you who won or who fought who, but I can remember seeing The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels when he was on his own because it was down the road past that.
Yeah.
And there was someone else. Now it's slipping my mind. But I remember them being there vaguely because I was only 5. But it was definitely a trippy experience. And like Gio said, now it's funny to me that how much now people are wrestling's fake and stuff like that. It's you're right. It is predetermined. It is to some degree fake if you want to use that word. But I dare you to lay there and let a guy jump on you.
Yeah.
Take an elbow to the chest. Tell me that don't hurt. You know, working punches, absolutely. But to say that these guys don't legit take their bodies and put them at risk is a lie. So now, as an adult, obviously, like Gio said, it's harder to get into the fantasy side of it, of suspending that belief, because as adults, you know it's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know? But now, the thing that I'm much more into now is documentaries and things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, how did things become what they were at certain times, and how did things build up to what they are? What did these guys do behind the scenes? Like, it's always talked about how much this business back in the day was very much, you know, hush hush. It was hard to get into the business. It was hard to talk about the business.
It was like a carny business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to sit here and try to use a bunch of terms that, like, the internet wrestling community is like, no, I know these terms. But, motherfucker, you don't work in that line of work. Don't use those terms. You know, I hate that stuff. People are like, oh, well, I know what a baby face and a heel is. Like, congratulations. You're not in that line of work. So you can say good guy and bad guy and people get the point, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So, you know, stuff like that. Like, back then it was definitely a different time. And now they pulled the curtain back. And some people go, well, is it too much? Are they exposing the magic a little too much? Maybe. But, I mean, I think that people at this point in time where we are in this time of, you know, as far as technology in this day and age, I think you kind of have to pull that back a little bit more to grab people to go, no, look, this is really where we come from. This is really what we do.
Definitely.
And especially now that they have the NXT program, which is, it's before you get to the main roster on the regular TV. It's only on the network, and it's all, now they have a lot of guys from other companies. They have a lot of guys who they developed on their own. It's a big deal.
They're making it feel more like it's a TV show now. Now they're like, you have Raw and starring AJ Styles and starring Roman Reigns,
right.
And you know, that's not their real names, and here are the real names on Twitter and other avenues. And it's kind of like, you know, when you watch like Breaking Bad, you know that who plays who and you know who played what, and it's still like this big thing, and people still watch it and they still get into it, but you know that they're not really cooking
that
meth.
person.
And so and I think that that's what they're trying to go with it, because like there's just so much technology, you can't hide it anymore. There's no way of hiding a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Everything comes out, like everybody who's gonna debut now is pretty well known right before they debut, and if somebody debuts and it's a surprise, it's like the best thing in the world. Yeah. It's a big payoff.
So besides obviously WWF, do you remember any other outside companies? Like, maybe you didn't necessarily watch them, but you heard about them.
And
NWA.
NWA, is that what it was?
Yep.
Okay,
The
I remember
National Wrestling
NWA.
Alliance.
Well, that was Ric Flair's forum before he went to WWF.
That was before he went to WCW.
Or WCW, yeah.
NWA and Crockett Promotions eventually turned into WCW down the road.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember, I mean, and it wasn't, I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying it, but I mean, on the scale of WWF versus NWA, you didn't even hear about NWA unless you were really into wrestling back then, because you really had to look for it. They had like a 20 or 30 minute spot on every couple of weeks. It was not exposed. I mean, I even wonder sometimes, I mean, when Ric Flair came into the WWF, I remember going, okay, I've seen this guy somewhere before, but I don't remember where, you know, and then you learn the history, you start researching them a little bit, and, oh, okay, yeah, I thought I saw him before. And honestly, he's the only one I remember from NWA. Yeah. I don't remember anybody else.
Here's some facts for you. NWA produced the Four Horsemen. That was the original. The Four Horsemen were formed in the NWA. The Road Warriors came from the NWA. There was a gentleman by the name of Magnum TA who didn't make it out of there, but he was a big name in that promotion. Who else was it that came from there?
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes came
American
from there.
Dream.
That's right. Lex Luger came from there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it produced a lot. And to your point, it was a territory time back then. The WWE was one thing, NWA was one thing, the AWA was one thing, Mid-South was there was a lot of different territories, especially on the East Coast. The West Coast is not known for having a territory of wrestling. It's a lot more known on the East Coast for that stuff. And eventually, like, that's what a lot of guys are having issues with now, is that these indie shows and stuff like that, which is short for independent shows that are not big productions, or they're not necessarily on TV, they're on iPay-per-views and stuff like that, or just not on any exposure other than a DVD that they recorded the show from. They they don't have the territories that they used to. So there's not as many places for these guys to go and work or to hone this craft and this art of learning how to protect somebody and doing what they do and put on a good show that makes you believe in what they're doing, and they tell you this story. And that's essentially how NXT was born. The idea was that how do you create that within your own company? And they turned around and they have done it. They have legitimately done it. And it's now become a hotbed for major names around the world. Like now, like I said, there was territories. There's also Japan. The shirt I have on now, which will be up on Instagram, we'll have it up there. The Bullet Club. That is a New Japan pro wrestling formation of a stable, of a group. And those guys essentially, I mean, some people say rip them off, some people say pay tribute to them, but they essentially use the gestures of DX and the NWO, and they say the same things to some degree, and they just use that in the Japanese market. Yeah. And it literally exploded over there. And they're supposed to be bad guys. They were supposed to be hated. They're supposed to be having people boo the shit out of them. And it became like worldwide popular. Wow. And the original formation of the Bullet Club was actually Tama Tonga, who is the son of, in WCW he was known as Mean, in WWE he was known as Haiku, and he's been talked about as a legitimate badass. Wow. And it's his son. And then King Fala, I don't really know too much about him.
He's Tongan.
Is he?
Yeah,
okay.
Tongan, yeah.
And then the original leader was Prince Devitt, also known in the WWE now as Finn Balor. And if you know who Finn Balor is, he's the guy that paints himself like a demon, and for special shows and stuff like that, which he also made famous in New Japan. He was a young cat from Ireland that just went around and was working company to company, found a home in New Japan, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna start painting myself. And it became this one thing. They had a huge show, what they call Wrestle Kingdom, and he did this demonic zombie kind of thing where his interest, he came out of a coffin, nice, and walked like a zombie and was full body paint. And everybody loved it. So then he started doing themes when he would go to these other indie shows where it was one of them was Bane from Batman. Mm-hmm. He's done the Joker. He's done Freddy Krueger. He's done a lot of cool ones. Nice. So they allowed him to bring the body paint and stuff to WWE, which was awesome. But he was the original leader of the Bullet Club. And then once he signed his deal to come to the WWF or WWE, then they put AJ Styles in that position. And AJ Styles took that. And if you watched wrestling at all during the early 2000s to the end of 2010, TNA Wrestling or TNA Impact, whatever you want to call it, became a homestand for the secondary product. Once WCW was gone, there wasn't really a secondary product that stood out. Well, around the time that 2003, 2004, TNA was founded by Jeff Jarrett. And his father, Jerry Jarrett, who was a huge promoter, it goes back to those territory days. Yeah. And they founded the company and decided to start putting it on. And AJ Styles was a homegrown kid from Georgia that became the face of that program and that company. That dude from day one was amazing in that company.
He was actually there in the last days of WCW.
Yes.
He was there in the final, probably the final year. And and he pretty much became a star in TNA.
He was a franchise.
He became the pillar of it. And so when he left, it was a big deal. And I think they undervalued him. I think they thought that he was going to go out there and he was just going to work signings and a couple of wrestling shows. And he went to Japan and he took over the Bullet Club. And when Prince Devitt left, when Finn Balor left, it was barely starting to bubble and get hot. And when he came, then you had the Young Bucks in it, and then he brought in several other people, even Jeff Jarrett at one point was
a member of the Bullet Club.
Nice. And but it just blew up because I think it was everything what people wanted that they weren't getting in WWE.
Well, I think part of that too was AJ's notoriety.
Yeah.
Because he had an American audience. Yeah. Vin didn't have that.
Yeah.
He didn't have that kind of audience that he brought. He was known in the UK. He was known in Dublin and stuff like that. And if you were an internet wrestling fan or an indie type guy, then you knew who he was. But for me, I had no idea who he was until one day online I'm looking through wrestling videos on YouTube, and it was him, and the name on there was Pac. which is actually Neville in the WWE now. And I was like, what the heck? Like, these guys are in the WWE now. Like, so I went back and watched the match, and I was like, holy shit, like, I need to look this dude up. And come to find out, he was at the top of his game when he was leaving New Japan. But he didn't have the notoriety that AJ did. So when AJ went there, he brought a whole different set of eyes. And his name was established. Finn or Prince Devitt, whatever you want to call him, because his real name is Fergal Devitt. But they couldn't pronounce Fergal in Japan. So they went with, and they were going to call him King Devitt, but they were like, he's too young. So they called him Prince. Because of that, like, he built his name in New Japan. AJ brought his name
from Japan
to Japan, so it was different. And now even AJ being out, they have a different guy. Where now I think it's starting to run its course a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they've lost some names. They lost AJ to the WWE, and then they also just picked up Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, who were big time members in the Bullet Club when Finn was there. He brought them in and was like, "Oh, we can get these guys," you know.
And Gallows was in TNA for a hot
minute. Minute. Yeah. He was actually his first run in WWE. He has a character named Festus who was like all like
slow,
just on one, and then when the bell would ring, he would be like, "Oh," and he'd go crazy and beat the shit out of people. So yeah, I mean, there's other promotions out there. There's other things you can find right now. Ring of Honor is a show that's out there. That one, a lot of guys have come from there. They're bigger now television wise because they have a deal with Sinclair Broadcasting, Viacom. Mm-hmm. So they're on regular TV weekly, and but a lot of guys came from there. Guys like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Christopher Daniels, Colt Cabana was there with CM Punk. They set that place up. I mean, there's a lot of major players that went on from there onto bigger things with WWE.
So all of these other ones are still just steps to get to WWE then?
As it's New Japan's probably the closest you can get to it right now. Just from the fact that they do 50, 60,000 people arenas because it's Japan.
Yeah.
You know, Corrigan Hall, the Tokyo Dome. I mean, that's about as close as you're going to get attendance-wise. But notoriety-wise, no, there's nobody that's...
The footprint that they have is worldwide. So, like, they'll have polls, and, like, sometimes the American audience will have a preconceived notion of who's going to win that poll, like, favorite wrestler. But everybody in the world votes, and, like, different people will win, and people are like, what the... But that's just because WWE has that much fans.
Yeah.
And, honestly, there is nothing that is even comparable, not even a little bit. And even New Japan is not really, because they're barely starting to make a mark in the United States market, but they're on Access TV, and all the stuff that they show over here is stuff
it's like older. 3 months behind.
Yeah, but
what they do, they have an hour spot on Fridays where they have Josh Barnett, the UFC fighter, him and Jim Ross, the former WWE announcer. They call matches, and it's usually 1 to 2 matches. It's an hour-long spot on Friday night on Access. For those of you who don't know, it's on DirecTV, channel 340. The channel is owned by Mark Cuban.
Oh, wow.
So that's also the same channel that holds the Legacy fights.
Yeah.
So that whole deal is them, and Gio's right. Like the stuff they show is 3 months behind. So
they're not big enough yet to be able to get that live audience.
You can listen to it in Japanese.
Yeah. The other problem too is the time difference.
Yeah.
They've had a company that hosted Wrestle Kingdom 9, which was 2 years ago now. And it went well, like the numbers showed well, but not well enough to stabilize something like that. Yeah. So that if there is a second, that it's them right now. Lucha Underground is a new thing that they're doing, but they don't shoot it as a wrestling show. They shoot it as a TV show that's episodically running into the next one.
And they'll take wrestlers that are established, and they'll either present them the same or completely redo them. Like you have a wrestler named El Macias from Mexico. He plays Mil Muertes, and I can honestly say that's one of the coolest wrestling characters out right now. He's like straight up Mexican Undertaker. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how they present the mask, the tights, and the I don't know. Remember Nacho Libre? Remember the wrestler, the big dude? He reminds me of that guy, but just in a black mask that has like double M's and like just the tights that are like metallic black purple with like a little with all black, and it's, I'm not gonna lie, it's like a rip on Undertaker, but it's like the best like rip I've ever seen because it's different. But Lucha Underground, like if you compare it, in my opinion, to TNA, to Ring of Honor, to all those, I mean, it definitely has its place. It's different. Yeah. It's very different, but it definitely has its place. So, produced by Mark Burnett from Survivor, and then you also have Robert Rodriguez involved as well.
Yeah. So I mean, there's other alternatives out there, but production value, you're not gonna get what you get with the WWE. You're not gonna, like Gio said, you're not gonna get the pageantry that comes with all that stuff.
The history,
the history that they have, and the names that they have. Pretty much when Vince McMahon bought WCW, he killed the game.
He killed it. Yeah, I remember that.
That
was a big discussion.
They used it as a storyline, but he legitimately monopolized wrestling and only hurt the business.
Yeah.
I mean, it like you said, when you essentially were like, you know what, I just don't find this interesting anymore. There was a reason it went stale. They didn't have anybody to compare or compete with, and it was just like, well, we don't have to do better than them. They're not here anymore.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want.
And everybody who was anybody in WCW, they had guaranteed money. They sat out, so it got really boring in that end. Because the WCW guys coming in, I mean, besides Diamond Dallas Page and Booker T, there was nobody else.
Well, the reason why there was no major players that came over was some guys like Sting. The reason why you didn't see Sting in WWE until last year or 2 years ago was because they had contracts with AOL Time Warner, not WCW.
Oh, okay.
So Vince could not inherit their contracts and be like, hey, you work for me now. It was completely up to them. That was a stipulation in their contract was, hey, we signed with Time Warner AOL, they own the rights to us. So if I don't want to go, I ain't got to go. They would have had to renegotiate a new deal with WWE, and a lot of those guys felt like WWE made them feel secondary. And so when the storyline popped off of them invading, WWE, it came off really weak because the major players just weren't there.
No, I remember
it felt forced.
That was a real quirky time. I remember that because they had a good storyline going without them, and they chose to have them invade. And if I remember the storyline right, they bought WCW. And then even ECW, Shane McMahon had allegedly purchased ECW.
He purchased WCW, and then his sister bought ECW, and they put them together.
And they brought it.
They were trying to take down Dad.
Yeah, and like I said, that storyline it was a weak storyline. They could have brought them in a little different. I think the original influx of those, I think there was 5 of them. For some reason, I only remember Chris Benoit coming in with.
Do you remember?
Okay, well, see, that's different. That's not part of the invasion.
No,
that's part of them leaving WCW. It was Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero, and Dean Malenko
getting released from their
contracts. And they got out of their contracts and said, we want to go here. Oh, and they had a big enough name, much like Chris Jericho. Yeah. Had a big enough name that they were established and they could go over there. Yeah. And so when they got there, it was like, okay, that's why they had the name The Radicals. Because they essentially were jumping ship. Yeah. But the official invasion storyline,
I must have tuned out right before that.
Oh yeah. And honestly, the official storyline started with Booker T jumping Stone Cold Steve Austin and costing him.
But was it even? That's what I wanted to say. Was it even Booker T? Because I almost feel like I want to say the first people that ever invaded was like on Raw, and I think it was like Chuck Palumbo and like Sean O'Hare.
That was in that same time frame, but the pay-per-view is what kicked it off. It was the undisputed.
It was Triple H versus Stone Cold, I believe.
It was something. Yeah, it was for the undisputed title or something, and he cost Austin the title. And then it was like he came from the crowd, and people were like, "What the hell is Booker T doing here?" And then it went from.
The only thing I remember about Booker T was him and The Rock getting into it over whose finishing move had the bigger name.
Yeah,
because they had the same finishing move.
One of the biggest, funniest things I have on DVD is it's one of the Rock DVDs, and it's just a compilation of matches and promos and stuff, and obviously he's one of the best talkers in the business, and it's him and Chris Jericho, and they're talking shit to Booker T, Rhino, and Stephanie McMahon, and so they're just kind of going back and forth, and Chris Jericho's like, it's the gore and the whore, talking about Rhino and Stephanie McMahon, and Rock goes, oh, you want to play a little game? He goes, all right. So then he starts looking at Booker T, and the people of course start chanting Rocky as he's acting like he's thinking about all this stuff, and he's like, all right. He's like, I got one for you, and he goes to Shane and Booker T. He's he calls Booker T something. Yeah, he goes, he says something about Booker T. He calls Shane McMahon. He goes, Shane McMahon and his sister are Silver Spoon something, and he calls Booker T a pussy. Huh. And it's like, everyone's like, what? They bleep it out, and he's like, whoa, it's like, damn, this, they don't give a shit right now, they're going hard, and that's one of those rare moments where it's like, that whole time, like they could have went at it better, but like I said, the major names just weren't there, and you could see that it fell somewhat flat. That's why they cut it so short.
So let me get questions from you guys then.
Okay.
Favorite all-time wrestler?
Shawn Michaels, by far.
Gio?
I mean, it for me it depends. Like overall character, I would have to say Steve Austin. That's probably where I would have to go. But then like when you talk about wrestling, you know, like Shawn Michaels is like probably one of
There's
my.
like much like how you could go well in the NBA, you know, or the NFL, like position plays a character on the greatest player ever. You know what I mean?
Or does it though? I mean, because when I lay out wrestlers, okay, before Shawn Michaels, they never really had a personality. You had Hulk Hogan, who was the star.
You had cartoon-like characters.
Yeah. You had like you had a star in Hulk Hogan, but he didn't really have the All-American. He just didn't. The personality. They never let it take off. Shawn Michaels, to me, was the pioneer of that. You know, they let him. I was surprised with the success that McMahon let him have, because that guy really set bars that still are unreachable because of his character. Mm-hmm. They let his character expand. You know.
Well, I think like part of that too was a big transition of them getting away from the, like Gio said, the cartoon bigger than life characters, where they were kind of like, let's kind of go a different direction of like what's more realistic here, and then he was a big one. Like he had run his course. He did the tag team thing where they were hot, and then he went solo, and on many of his interviews and DVDs, you'll hear him say, "I was uncomfortable being the boy toy character."
The Heartbreak Kid.
He's still the only wrestler to sing his entrance music. Like he's the only person, like the first person to ever do that. Yeah. And he ran with Sherry Martel, Sensational Sherry, originally when they broke him up by himself. But then, like Gio said, like there's different things, and you're gonna get different answers, obviously, because it's per opinion.
Yeah.
Some people will say Ric Flair's the greatest wrestler.
Well, I'm not asking for the greatest wrestler. I'm asking for
as a favorite. Like if you look at a favorite, like mine by far is Shawn Michaels, because there's nobody that could wrestle a match, and you could turn the sound off on the motherfucker and turn around and go, when it's over, go, dude, I had no idea that was going down that way. Like, I mean, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Like he was just that good. Like it was.
Everything looked well done, real, fluid. Like you never really could tell when he messed up. He would never like give that off, and it was very similar to Bret Hart. I think the big difference between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart is that Shawn Michaels just was like a little more of a high flyer.
Yeah.
Because like his days
he
with
wasn't
the
such
Rockers,
a technician.
Yeah, and he was kind of a technician if you think about it. I mean, like I've seen him like do some real good mat wrestling, man.
I would say he's more of a ring general more so.
I feel like he could fit into anybody's style. I mean, he'll take like he can have like a really good match with like the Undertaker. He'll have the best matches with the Undertaker, and he can have a really good match with like the one we had with Austin. Yeah. The one, you know, he made Austin. Like, so did Bret Hart, but I would say he made Austin that night when he gave him that belt, you know, and that was around that time when, you know, Shawn Michaels was the most popular guy in the company, and Bret Hart were, but then, you know, you had Steve Austin coming in, like, cussing and
flipping
bird,
conventional.
and then that became cool, and that it's not about being what's bad, it's what's cool, and I think that's where Vince McMahon sometimes gets it messed up, you know, but Austin, like, the most beautiful thing about his run is that I think McMahon got out of his way. Like, I feel like he let the Austin character beat Austin.
Well, I think part of that too, like with the Shawn Michaels thing, is that like when you saw him say and act out, like he's admittedly he had issues with pills, and a lot of his anger and frustration that you saw on camera was very real. And when people saw that, like, he was a legitimate bad guy at a time where he was like coming off of being a good guy, he was coming off being the champion and all this, and you're like, when did this guy become a bad guy? Why is this guy a bad guy? And people just started booing the piss out of him. And it was just like, are you serious? Like, and then the more, like, listening to his promos now as an adult, I'm like, oh, dude, this guy is on, like, he's got it. Like, this guy had it, and we didn't even know it. You know what I mean? And even that, like, if you look at his flash forward to, I can't place the year right now, but it was the SummerSlam that he fought Hulk Hogan. I want to say it was like somewhere around 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. He's admitted on DVDs that, you know, Hulk Hogan wasn't around at that time. He was shooting the Hogan Knows Best TV show. So a lot of the angle that they shot and the storyline that they shot, he had to carry himself week to week. And one week they were just like, we want you to go out and cut a promo on Hulk Hogan. And he was like, okay. And they're like, no, we want the gritty, like, son of a bitch from 97, 98. And he was like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. Like, that's not me. In case you don't know Sean's story, in 2000, or in 98, March of 98, he lost to Stone Cold, dropped the WWE title to him, and then went on hiatus for 4 years with a broken back. In January of that same year, he had wrestled a casket match with The Undertaker, and they flipped him over, and he caught the corner of the casket, and it crushed 2 discs in his back.
Yeah,
he took 4 years off, had back surgery, and during the time off, he had kids and a family, and found his faith. And that's what changed everything for him, was his faith. And he was like, I don't do pills anymore. I'm not a jackass to people anymore. I'm not the argumentative, confrontational guy anymore. But on this particular night, they were like, hey, we want that guy to come out. And he was just like, I don't think you do. And he was just like, if that's what you want, that's what I'm going to give you. And he went out and cut out about, I want to say it turned out to be about 15 minutes, give or take. And he just went in. Like, they were in Canada, and Canada already doesn't like him for the whole Bret Hart situation in 97. And so he was just on it. I mean, he was talking about Bret Hart. He was talking trash about Hulk Hogan. And then there are times where he looks in the camera and goes, you wanted this. Like, looking at, like, as if he were talking to people in the back going, you asked for this. And so he just goes in on him. And it's like, if you can look it up on YouTube, it's the Montreal Shawn Michaels Hulk Hogan promo. I mean, it's like, he just, from something that you had not seen out of him in, years, legitimately like 7, 8 years. And then you just see him hit that switch and like, you want that guy? You're going to get that guy. And it was like he had never missed a step.
As far as the match was crazy.
Yeah, the match shouldn't have went down the way that it did. They put Hulk Hogan to win, and that's not what should have happened. Hogan obviously is way older. He can barely move. Guy was stiff as a board then, and he hadn't even had back surgery yet.
Oh, wow.
And they still put him on top of Shawn Michaels that way. That's not how it should
But just the Shawn Michaels, the almost the exaggerated way that he would
oversell,
He was selling, like, when Hogan would, like, kick him, he would, like, do, like,
He'd
flips
throw
and
himself,
bounces, and it was, like, the hardest kick in the world, and every punch he felt like it was...
Overacting.
Oh, man.
Well,
yeah.
From what I've read online and stuff I've heard from other interviews online from other wrestlers, he oversold purposely to show that I'm the better wrestler. That, like, you're getting a show because I'm putting on a show, essentially. So, I mean, and that, you don't really know what's exchanged behind the scenes like that behind two guys, so you don't really know how deep that goes. But, he's actually said, like, working with Hulk Hogan, he's in the beginning, I just wanted to be the guy that said, I got to know. Shawn Michaels has to know if I'm as good as Hulk Hogan. Yeah. He goes, and then they went, Hulk Hogan doesn't want that. Hulk Hogan wants you bad guy, him good guy, go from there. And he goes, are you sure? Are you sure? And they were just like, yep. He goes, I asked him to his face, are you sure? Yep. They even did a fake Larry King interview where he played Hulk Hogan and like he acted like his body hurt. He came out with a walker, like talking shit. And then he goes, and then after that, little did he know that like Hogan was like all pissed talking shit about him in the media. And he was like, I'll say it to his face, Hulk Hogan's a dick. Like straight up on one of his DVDs, he's like, Hulk Hogan's a dick. He's like, I wanted to work with Hulk Hogan. He was on my list. He's all, and unfortunately, I did. At the end of the day, I did wind up working with him, and it wasn't.
It's just it's kind of like what happens when the two egos just collide, man. Like, especially with Hulk Hogan, he's Hulk Hogan, and for him, he feels very territorial, like with anything he does, and so that's cost him.
Yeah, it's well known with Hogan that he has a bad problem and they give it to him. It's not just his fault because companies give it to him. Creative control is part of his contract. Oh wow! Everywhere he goes, he had it in WCW. When he came back to WWE, he had some of it. Like he has creative rights over his character. Like there's no he won't do it if he doesn't. And a lot of times that caused problems. If you look back at when him and Eric Bischoff came into TNA Wrestling, the company was doing fine. They had some guys that were some major players from WWE that jumped ship that just didn't like running as hard as WWE does because WWE is year-round. There's no off-season. Yeah. And they're on the road 200, 250 days a year. You get essentially one day off because you're flying in and out of places. Yeah. And
I've read that.
And they just don't want to be crammed on a plane every fucking day or in a car every day driving from town to town. So a lot of guys were like, hey, you know what? We can make some money over here and leave. Well, then they thought, well, let's bring Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff in and they'll have some significant, ideas and stuff like that. And I don't know, obviously we don't work there, we're not behind the scenes, but from a fan's perspective on TV, they buried the fucking organization.
Oh, wow.
Like, bad. Like, they had things that set them apart. They had a 6-sided ring. They went back to the conventional 4.
Yep.
They had guys like AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, Abyss. They had all these guys that they could use, and those guys started taking back seats to the guys that had names already. You know, and Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair being 2 of them that they put at the forefront.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it's like, dude, you guys are in your 60s and 70s. Like,
They went in there and they saw like this woman Dixie who had like this $1 billion company behind her.
Dixie Carter, her dad owns an energy company.
Panda Energy or something,
yeah.
something along
It's a
those
$1 billion
lines.
company.
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, and so when they went in there, they pretty much put it in her mind, you can compete. You can compete. Let's go ahead and start touring more, and let's start running live shows on Monday against Raw. And they actually did try to go against Monday Night Raw, and they failed miserably.
It was horrible.
It was like bad, and so they ended up going back to their model. But then after a while, because this is when I really started getting into TNA, it was hard to watch because yes, they were pushing a lot of the older guys, a lot of the newer guys were going back, and then they did try to start touring again. They try to like start doing a lot of the things that WWE does, but they just don't have the fan base. They didn't have they just didn't have the support behind them. They from the fans, right. And to the point where it's gone ugly. And now TNA, it's almost like,
it's hard to stomach.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. The product is not the worst, but it's just it's definitely know. Done. They know how to provide cringe-worthy moments, though,
yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's what sticks out, because it's not the cool moments. It's like, dude, did you see when that chick from Survivor, who's never wrestled before, wrestled that pay-per-view match and didn't even know how to throw a punch? Yeah. Because that's literally what happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. Now, that's, a little bit of history and stuff that's going on, but now, up-to-date times. Like I said, I know Gio and I both watch, we have the network. So we watch all the NXT specials. I don't watch every weekly episodic show of NXT, even though you have access to watch them. I just don't have time.
Yeah.
But I do watch the specials for sure. The last few specials have been better than the main roster pay-per-views, and that's been a big talk online and amongst the business because to a lot of those guys on the main roster, NXT is the minors. You're supposed to be honing your craft there. You're not supposed to be better than them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guys that they brought in have been polished already, and now they just finally made it to the big time. Yeah. And so they're like, hey, you start here, you work your way up. One of the biggest names that they just got was Shinsuke Nakamura from New Japan. He essentially has like a Michael Jackson-esque character, which is not huge in Japan, like as far as well known, but it got over. Like huge, like people loved it, and so they were wondering, like, are they gonna let them? The big question is, when you bring in an established guy, are they gonna let you keep your name, and are they gonna let you continue to do your same shtick that got you there? This guy, they totally are, and he's different than anything you've seen. He's different than anything the WWE has, and it's been great so far with him. NXT is taped. About like 3 to 4 weeks in advance, and then the specials are live. And then while they're running your weekly, tape shows on the network, they're out doing live shows in different places. So it's definitely, something that I watch, the specials. And the specials are quarterly. So it's every 3 months there's a special.
They make you wait for it, but they're always good.
It's always worth it.
Yeah.
So far, they have not had like a horribly bad special. There might be like a bad match, like you're like, I could have done without some of this stuff. But overall, you're just like, damn, that was like from top to bottom, that was pretty solid. They actually, back in August of last year, they went ahead and said, we're going to go ahead and go the same time as SummerSlam, which is the big summer pay-per-view for WWE. The WWE was doing the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. They started out, hey, we're going to release 5,000 tickets for NXT show at some little building. They sold out ridiculously quick. They said, okay, we're going to up it to 7,000 seats. The demand for it was ridiculous. And the Barclays Center goes, we can book you one more night. Because they were already doing SummerSlam there on Sunday and Raw on Monday. Mm-hmm. They said, why don't we do it on Friday? And they were like, are you sure? Yeah. Do it on Friday or Saturday. We're wide open. They took Saturday and did the Barclays Center. They sold out 14,000 people in the Barclays Center.
Wow.
And that was the biggest crowd they'd ever had. They still haven't done a building as big yet for NXT. 2 years ago at WrestleMania 31, they did San Jose, which was the biggest at the time for them, and that was around 6,000, 5,000 or 6,000.
Really regret not going to that one. I had tickets in the cart, and I was like, I need to run it by my wife, which is the dumbest thing. I was like, I should have just bought them tickets. I could have got yelled at. It's all good.
If you listen to our episodes, we've talked a little bit about that. It's okay.
I should have just bought them, and they sold out so quick. Really quick.
I actually did get to go to WrestleMania 31. It was in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. And I tell you what, man, for everything that they say it is, it's exactly that and then some. Even if you're not a fan of wrestling, it's an experience. The attendance that night was 77,000 people. I mean, I don't know. I've been to baseball games with full stadiums and them only have 49,000, 50,000 people.
Yeah.
But to sit around, and I was up towards the top. Like, I didn't spend a shit ton of money and sit down near the bottom. But I sat in the upper area, and just to look around and realize that you're sitting with 77,000 people is just pretty awe-inspiring. Then to know that 77,000 people enjoy the same shit that you enjoy. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, and for me, like I said, you're growing up watching some of these guys. Undertaker fought on that card. Brock Lesnar was there. Sting. That was Sting's WrestleMania match. I got to be there and see that in person. Seth Rollins' first world title.
Yeah.
I got to see that. Like, to be able to say I was there. There's only, now after this last one, there's only been 32. And it's a worldwide thing. It is now a thing where people bid on, like towns bid on, where you can do WrestleMania because of the revenue it generates.
What's bigger?
It's a whole week.
What's bigger, the NBA Finals or WrestleMania? Do you think, as far as like
viewership or money made?
Money made.
It's by far it's WrestleMania. It literally generates millions upon millions of dollars for the community because it's a week-long thing.
So the only one that would rival it would probably be
the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl, I would say,
because that's also in week 10
yeah.
because of the Pro Bowl. The WrestleMania week, they have a reading challenge where they go to schools in that area and do a reading challenge. They have a charity golf tournament during that week, which reminds me you should have been in the area for that. And then they also have things like Access, which is where they have autograph signings and they have like little matches that they'll put on for the people that are local, and you can go check out memorabilia and different aspects of the building, which is usually done at a convention center near there, which is pretty damn cool. So there's like all that going on, and they say that it's not just like, oh, it's a couple $1 million. Like, it generates a huge amount of money that people want. So it was definitely cool. Like, it was one of those, like, damn, like when I walked into the building, like, it was pretty cool. Like, oh, I'm at Levi. I'd never been to Levi anyway, and it was brand new. And I was like, dude, we're at Levi. And then, like, I literally, like, walked out to where our seats were when people were still barely finding out. The show wasn't even on yet. We're like walking out and you see the set and you see the ring, and it's like this, like, I mean, it sounds like stupid, or you could say, oh, that sounds gay or whatever. But like, there was this moment where I kind of stopped and went, dude, I'm really fucking here. Like, this is a real thing happening right now. This is shit you see on TV and you're experiencing it.
Was that your first wrestling event?
That was my first WrestleMania event. Like I said, I went to the one when I was like 5. But since then? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've been to 2 Raws before.
Oh, okay.
They've had them here in Visalia. I saw, who did we see at the last Raw? It was wrestling. Austin was there. The main event, this was when Triple H was having his big feud with The Rock. So we got to see The Rock, and the Big Show had just switched to being a bad guy, so he was running with Triple H.
One of many times.
Yeah, he's gone back and forth a lot.
So now we have, the current champion is Roman Reigns. How do you feel about him being champion, you?
A lot of people are quick to, especially regular fans, like if you hear like Jim Ross or Stone Cold or their podcast, they're going to be like, well, the kid this and the kid, they're trying to be really nice. And I feel the same way, man. The guy has potential, but I just don't know, for some reason or other, I just don't know what's not clicking. I want to say what's not clicking is the fact that people want to see him as a certain character, like a really quiet, stoic, just really like badass, tough monster, and like he doesn't do it all the time. Like most of the time, he has like that frat boy smirk. And he's
got a pretty boy look.
And dude, you're yoked out and you wrestle in a freaking like in a flak
SWAT
jacket,
vest,
bro.
yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, you know, when he was with the Shield, in my opinion, like, it made sense. But now that he's not with the Shield, he should lose that, reinvent his character a little more, embrace his Samoan heritage, which he does, but it doesn't kind of come across that way, like, 100%. And I think people want to cheer him, but we just don't want to cheer him the way that it's been presented. Right. And he's been pushed to the moon and back, you know, really in the past, like, year and a half. And it's like, it's not catching on quite like they thought. And at some point, you got to wonder, it's like, well, can't they just kind of, like, figure something else out? Yeah. Because if this is not going to work out, why are they constantly investing money? Like, you got lucky that you went to the WrestleMania you went. Because I think it would have sucked going to this year's WrestleMania. Oh, and because it was probably one of the, in my opinion, overall, it wasn't as enjoyable as the one before it, yeah. And even the one before that.
Well, I think they had such low expectations for 31. They're like, I don't know how this is going to go.
Everybody, leading up to it, everybody was like, if Roman Reigns beats Triple H, the whole place is just going to boo, and that's how it's going to end. And you're like, well, you know, that's kind of what, I'm pretty sure they want to do that. They want Roman Reigns to be the champion. Yeah. And you're like, oh, maybe they'll switch it up, you know? They didn't switch it up, and everybody booed, and that's how it ended.
To be fair, at 31, they booed the shit out of him at 31, too. Like, that wasn't, like, one of those things where it came across on TV. Like, I watched it back on the network when I got home later that week. Like, they did not, like, usher in any audio, and he got booed the fuck out of when he came into the arena. Because he comes in through, at that time, he was coming in through the fans. And they just booed the shit out of him. They cheered Brock Lesnar like nobody's business. And Brock Lesnar was supposed to be the bad guy.
But Brock Lesnar's badass.
Well, I think that's, to your point, I think that's the way that they need to book Roman Reigns. Yeah. Is talk less and just be physical and, like you said, demonstrative. Like, you knock the fuck out of people. You don't say much. You let your fighting in your fist do what you need to do. You leave people lame. That's what you do. That's how you let that stuff speak for you. And they don't book him.
And that's the way he was when he was with the Shield.
Yeah, and he was the muscle behind the Shield.
Well, think about it this way: when the year that Batista won the Royal Rumble a couple years ago, he was like getting cheered. People wanted Roman Reigns to win. And then the following year, I think Roman actually won, and people were booing him. Wow. So, and it's just like, what happened in a year? Well, what happened in a year is they broke up the Shield, and then they pushed him like John Cena.
And there were the issues with Daniel Bryan. I mean, there was a lot of things.
Yeah, and when people want something and they're giving them something else, it's an insult to their intelligence, I think, to most fans. And that's why some fans just can't stomach that.
Yeah. Well, as we wind down here, I was given this as a gift. My cousin, who I'm related to by my uncle, her mom passed away a few months back, and they cleaned out her belongings in her garage and stuff. And although you guys can't see it, these guys can. It was a canister. It says World Wrestling Federation Wrestling Trivia Game. 800 questions.
Oh, wow.
So I figured I'd bring it, and it goes all the way back. I mean, it's, you know.
Well, like, if it's titled World Wrestling Federation, it stopped 99.
Well, you can see the pictures on it. No, you can see the pictures on it. Like Shawn Michaels was on it. It's an actual game.
That's Sid Vicious.
Yeah. No, in the WWF, he was Psycho Sid.
Sid Vicious. Sorry. Who the hell is that?
Where?
Vader?
Yeah,
Vader.
That's Vader.
Who? Vader.
His
Big
real
Van
name's
Vader.
Leon White.
And yeah, he's
so it was an actual game that, like, there's like ways to score points and all this shit. But I don't know how the game works. I really don't care. Like, I just think it's a cool memorabilia piece to have.
Is that Coco Beware?
No, that's Ahmed Johnson. That's racist, bro. That is straight up racist right there. That's profiling is what that is. So I figured, since it's got questions ranging from everywhere on it, that maybe we ask some questions, see what we got.
Let's see what kind of history we got.
All right, let's see here.
Actually, Vader, didn't he play in the NFL too?
I believe he did.
He played for the LA Rams, I think.
So you guys didn't ask me who my favorite wrestler was.
Who is your favorite wrestler?
Ravishing Rick Rude.
Yeah, there's an unconventional choice. I like it. The only person to be on 2 shows in the same night.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was in DX, and then he jumped ship.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a couple of good ones. All right, let's see. The name of who was the Intercontinental Champion going into WrestleMania 6. Should be an easy one.
The Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, I was going to say the Honky Tonk Man.
Dude, we just talked about who fought the Ultimate Warrior.
But we were talking about that the other day, weren't we?
Right now, we just talked about it earlier. Who fought at WrestleMania 6?
Oh, that was Hulk Hogan
And
Ultimate Warrior.
who was the champion?
Well, Ultimate
Ultimate
Warrior was
Warrior was-
Intercontinental.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's your answer.
Hey,
WrestleMania 6. Let's see here.
Who'd have thunk?
Right. Oh, here's your. We'll see how much you know, man. At WrestleMania 1, who sang the national anthem?
Oh, jeez. I wouldn't be able to answer that one.
Do you know, Gio?
Was it Stevie Wonder?
No, it actually wasn't somebody famous. It was actually Gene Okerlund.
No.
Oh,
way.
wow.
Mean
Mean Gene?
Gene.
Yeah,
Mean Gene's Burgers.
Wow.
let's see here. Okay. At WrestleMania 1, Andre the Giant received $15,000 for slamming who? I actually know the answer to this without looking.
Is it King Kong Bundy?
It is not.
Why would he get a bonus for slamming anybody else?
It was like a challenge. It was like a body slam challenge. I can tell you who it was without looking.
George the Animal Steel.
Nah. It was Big John Studd.
Oh, okay.
man.
He would have been the other
That
one.
makes sense,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
All right.
Makes a lot of sense.
Who refereed Jake Roberts and Andre's match at WrestleMania 5?
Who again?
Who was the referee to the Jake Roberts Andre match at WrestleMania 5?
Roddy Piper.
No.
Mr. T?
No, it was Big John Studd again.
Big John
Oh,
Studd.
dang, dude.
He made a lot of cameos.
That's the one guy I don't know about.
Oh, okay. Here you go. What did Roddy Piper do to Adrian Adonis at WrestleMania 3? Spank him, shaved his head, or made him retire?
Spanked him.
Gio, what you got?
Yeah, I'll probably go with spank him.
He actually shaved his head.
Oh, really?
He actually
I
shaved
would
his
say it
head.
just seems like something like
Yeah, something Roddy would do back
something
then.
yeah.
Who won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 5?
That's got to be the Ultimate Warrior. No.
This was the year before.
That was the year before. So we're probably talking, okay, so
The
Honky Tonk Man
Man.
was SummerSlam. It's not the Honky Tonk Man. It's right before him. It's... Oh, man.
I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna slap yourself when you hear
Oh,
the answer. to this.
jeez. It's not Macho Man, is it?
No,
Who is it?
Rick Rude.
Oh, jeez. It's gonna say there was
I
a
would've got that
small time champion in between him and the Ultimate Warrior. He beat the Ultimate Warrior for it.
It doesn't say who.
When Bobby the Brain Heenan held Ultimate Warrior's leg down.
Oh.
I remember that.
I remember Rick Rude had the Intercontinental Championship
On
belt
his tights.
On his tights,
Yeah.
No, the best was the two lips he had on his
Yeah.
butt cheeks.
Or he had didn't he have Jake Roberts' wife?
Yeah, that was an awesome
that was-
storyline.
And she had like this blonde hair, big blonde hair too. It looked awesome.
Jeez, let's see if we can find some newer ones here, or not newer, but what was that?
So while Justin's looking, we're gonna give one plug today for someone. Tech guy here knows how to replace iPhone screens.
Oh, word?
Yeah, and minimal charge. So if you need a screen, you can put a post up on one of our blogs on either Podbean or iTunes Podbean or YouTube, and hit us up. Tech guy will take care of you. He does all screens, not just iPhones, Galaxies, pads, right? He's nodding. He's afraid to talk today.
All right, here we go. To win the WWE Championship, Sergeant Slaughter defeated who? The Undertaker, The Ultimate Warrior, or Hulk Hogan?
It was Hulk Hogan.
Gio, who you got? Warrior, Taker, or Hogan?
It was Hogan.
I think it was Hogan.
Oh, you're wrong. It was the Warrior.
It was the Warrior?
The Warrior.
Was that when he was doing his anti-American
Yeah,
shit?
I believe so.
That's why I thought it was Hogan, man, because
Yeah.
I was like...
Well, no, okay.
Hogan
that's
beat
not
him for
true.
it.
It would be. It didn't say which time because the time you're talking about was WrestleMania 7 in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the one. But
Hogan
Warrior
beat
fought
him.
Savage that night in the retirement match.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
see.
Slaughter and Hogan fought because the entire arena in LA was red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Because that was the main selling point. In May of '95 at In Your House, who was the champion? Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, or Diesel?
Probably Diesel.
I'm going to go with Hart.
It was Diesel.
With Diesel.
Yeah, it was Diesel.
His short run.
Yeah, it showed.
Yeah.
In SummerSlam of 1990, the Warrior and Rick Rude's match was a retirement match, a steel cage match, or a leather strap match.
Steel cage match.
I think it was a leather strap match, wasn't
It
it?
was a cage match.
It was a cage match.
Cage match.
I remember Rude coming off the top of the cage.
At WrestleMania 10, what match was announced by none other than Mr. Burt Reynolds?
10.
Hold on. I'll give you the options. Brett versus Owen, Brett versus Yokozuna, or Adam Bomb versus Earthquake.
I would go Brett and Owen.
Brett and Yokozuna.
That was Brett and Yokozuna. Yeah, it was the main event.
Because of the main event, yeah.
That's
Such a weird announcer.
Okay. The man that Shawn Michaels eliminated to win the 96 Royal Rumble. I actually know this. Your options are Diesel, Yokozuna, and Bret Hart.
As I say, it's Hart, isn't it? But I see him raising the belt. I don't think it's Hart.
No, it's who did he
They'll do
eliminate
it
in
to
the Royal
Royal
Rumble?
I'm going to say Diesel.
In 96.
Yeah, I'll probably say Diesel too.
It is Diesel. He would go on to fight Bret at WrestleMania 12 in the Iron Man match.
Yeah, I was going to say the one that went like an hour.
Yeah. Oh, it actually went 63 minutes.
Yeah, because they declared a tie after 60 minutes.
Yep. It was a 0-0 tie, and they kept going. Considered as one of, if not the greatest match of all time.
That goes to Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan.
I got news for you. WrestleMania 3's match with them was horseshit. Don't get me wrong, it was an awesome feat for Hogan to slam Andre. It still stands the test of time.
I hear more about Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat. Yeah.
WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, that being
the Pontiac Silverdome.
Big match.
That's the ring bell across the Adam's apple, you mean?
Honestly though, I gotta give it up to Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker though.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
At 25. Oh,
yeah.
If you have not seen that match, and that's one of those matches I was telling you could watch with the sound off.
Yeah.
The baseline of the story is this. The baseline is that Taker needs somebody to fight. He's the guy to do it. I want to know if I can do this. Well, then they proceed to sell you on the fact that Taker represents the darkness.
Yeah.
And that Shawn represents the light. And it becomes if you just want to watch like their promo package, it's pretty damn ridiculously good. The WWE, like we said, production value second to none.
Is that the one where Shawn Michaels comes out almost like an Undertaker style entrance?
They have him up on it's like an extended I don't know what you would call it.
Like a platform.
Yeah. And he comes out in all white, wearing Taker's shit in white.
He has a big old hat.
He's got the hat, and he's like this,
white.
and the screen is like showing him like a light that's getting brighter.
Yeah.
And then Taker comes up from underneath.
Honestly, the best dueling 1-2 entrances I've ever seen. But that match is ridiculous.
Pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
As we wind down here, we'd like to do this on a more regular basis. Every once in a while, have Gio on the show and talk about what the wrestling product is currently. This time it was a little bit more of a history lesson type day, which was cool because if you're in our age group or in Manuel's age group, you know that there's a lot of history here of a lot of great things and a lot of great people. If you have comments on this, or you listen to this in the wrestling community, whether it's on the internet or anything like that, and you have questions or you wanted to hear us talk about some stuff about the product now or have questions, by all means, put them in the comments section. We're on YouTube. So search Totally Unprofessional Podcast. It'll take you straight there. Or you can find us on Podbean. We are on Instagram at Totally_Unprofessional, where the links to both of those are in the bio. So go ahead and check those out. Gio, thanks for coming.
Thank you. And actually, I have my own little Twitter account. It's at SWWGO, at I Still Watch Wrestling, and like I mentioned, at SWWGO.
Oh, real quick, speaking of Twitter, I forgot about this. Because Gio has 2 kids. When Gio had his first kid, Dolph Ziggler shouted him out on Twitter.
Nice.
Yeah, so
nice.
So that was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet. Got anything else?
No. We didn't really cover much else. The Golden State game did go final.
What was the final?
They lost by 106-102.
Shit.
So you got Durant and his boys are up 1-0.
Stole one
and they took one in Golden State. So the rest of this should play out pretty interesting for them.
Right on.
The Heat did end up dropping Sunday night. They come out, I believe, tomorrow night, right?
I think it's tomorrow night.
Toronto and Cleveland will start tomorrow. So the road to the finals will keep going here.
Yep, down to the last 4 teams here.
Let's just say it right here.
I was just saying, who's your prediction for the last 2?
Toronto OKC final is what I want.
Really?
I want that because it's unconventional, because it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be able to
I think
happen.
you just want to see all those Drake memes.
Actually, I'm gonna tell you what. Okay, but back to the little political nonsense here. I said it a couple of podcasts ago. The biggest crime of the end of this political season will be the lack of memes on Facebook and Instagram because they're just priceless right now. The Drake memes are awesome because they just come out and they come out in abundance.
Gio, who you got in the finals?
Oh man.
Or who would you like to see?
Honestly, I really do think it's going to be Golden State and the Cavaliers, man.
Yeah,
I really do.
I'm hoping for Golden State and Toronto. I've said it.
That's not even a finals, though.
Say what you will, but I have my own reasons because I've said this before. Since day one, LeBron James can eat a big bowl of dicks.
All right, so thanks for tuning in again. If you tuned in today,
and we've been totally unprofessional. We'll see you Friday.